Video Game Book Club podcast. Today we're doing a bonus cast on Mega Man 11. I'm your host. Dang it. Hello and welcome to Missed Checkpoints, the Video Game Book Club podcast. Today we're doing a bonus cast on Mega Man 11. I'm your host Marqus, and joining me today, as always, is the homie, singular, Dante. What's up, man?
What's good? Got a game to talk about.
We do, and I'm excited to talk about this game, Mega Man 11. So, what's your Mega Man experience?
So, up until college, I didn't have that much Mega Man experience. I think I played Battle Network by then. I had played the Battle Network game for GameCube, the one for Game Boy Advance, and maybe another Mega Man here and there. But it wasn't until maybe like 2010, 2011, around when Mega Man 9 came out, where I actually got into the series. And it's funny because me and Marcus, played through Mega Man's 1 and 2 and started 3 just randomly, I guess, throughout college. And I also ended up playing 9 and 10. And after that, after I graduated, I ended up playing pretty much the entire series at this point. I've played...
Just the mainline series, right?
Well, I've played Mega Man's 1 through 11 now. And I've played Mega Man X 1 through 6, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So I've played... Oh, and the Mega Man Zero games. I've played 1 through 4 of those. So I've played over 20 Mega Man games at this point.
Jeez.
Probably close to 25 to completion. What's your history with the series?
I've played 5. Yeah, like you said, I don't really have a Mega Man background. So I think literally the only Mega Man game that I had played growing up was the soccer game on SNES. I had rented that, and I don't remember anything about that game. And then I think the very first Mega Man game I played was with you, and I don't remember, maybe it was our second or third year in school, and like you said, it was just we randomly decided to let's play the Mega Man series, and I think did we switch off every 3 lives, or was it? I think that's how we did it.
I think so. I think it was during the continue.
Yeah,
because you always start with 3 lives or whatever.
And so we beat the first 2, I know, and then, like you said, we got into the third one, but I think we just stopped playing for whatever reason. And beyond that, the only other game I had played was Mega Man Battle Network, which I love that game. I'm surprised at myself how much I like that game, that I never continued on in the series. In hindsight, that was probably very foolish of me. And so yeah, I have a ton of Mega Man friends that are huge Mega Man fans, and I know for me personally, I didn't really care for the Mega Man games that we had played, 1 and 2. I kind of was like, what's the big deal? And I know whenever I kind of voiced my lack of enthusiasm about Mega Man, people would always say like, oh, you don't like it because it's hard. And I can't quite put my finger on it. That's not the reason. It wasn't necessarily like fun for me at the time. I don't really know. Like it felt like an old game when we were playing it, and maybe that's why I never, because at that point I know Super Meat Boy was out, and that game is really fast and responsive, and I didn't necessarily feel like Mega Man was the same, and I felt like even like a lot of the platforming in Mega Man was like, you, in the sense like Super Meat Boy, but Super Meat Boy you could quickly get back in and like get that muscle memory. But I feel like Mega Man, like there's no way you could like beat a level on your first go through. You had to like run it a couple times in order to get like the patterns and everything down.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
And I just wasn't a fan of that play style with the lives. That in like conjunction with the lives. So like on like Super Meat Boy, where it was like you have unlimited lives, you can quickly restart and just get back in. Like I never felt that way about Mega Man. It was like, oh, you have 3 shots, and once you die, then you have to start all the way back from the beginning. And I just wasn't really a fan of that at the time. But now we have Mega Man 11, and uh, I guess since you have more of a background, you want to maybe talk about the new system and if there's any parallels to any of the previous games.
Sure, I can do that. Give me 1 second though. I wanted to backtrack just for a second
Okay, okay.
and say that I've also played the Mega Man Legends games, which are very good. They're I'd like to say his first 3D entries in general, and they're kind of they're more adventure games. It's a very interesting thing. It's almost like, did you ever play Sonic Adventure at all?
The Sega game, Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you know how that was kind of pseudo open world and stuff like that?
yeah, yeah.
It was kind of that formula, like the same Mario 64, where it's like, hey, we have this iconic 2D character. How do we put him into a 3D space? And in the process, he kind of transferred over into a different genre. So you have like a lock on system and all this other stuff. You're collecting money and buying items and
What was
upgrading
that on?
equipment. Huh?
What was that on? The PS1?
So it was on PS1, and then they also released it as Mega Man 64, I believe.
Okay.
And then the second game, Mega Man Legends 2, I think that was exclusive to the PS1.
And did you play that when it came out, or did you play that in your quest to, getting into the Mega Man series, like within the past, what, like 5 to 7 years?
So I played Mega Man Legends 1. I don't want to say close to release, but it wasn't too far away from its release. It's probably like early 2000s.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And Legends 2, I think I went through that last year or maybe the year before. And they actually, there was a Mega Man Legends 3 that was announced for the 3DS, but in one of the most, I guess, notable cancellations of all time. That game was canceled, I'd like to say the same time Inafune. Am I mixing up my developers?
I
I'm pretty sure
believe
Inafune.
it's Unifune.
Yeah, Inafune, he left Capcom around that time.
Oh, so that's why they
I believe so, because
canceled
he
it.
had that announced, Mega Man Legends 3. There was a Mega Man Universe thing, I'd like to say, that was really weird. And pretty much Capcom just didn't talk about Mega Man for about 5 or 6 years after that happened.
That was a very sore spot for, like, I have two, like I said, I have two friends that are hardcore Mega Man fans. Where I know one of them has actually I have a bunch of Mega Man fan friends, but one has the energy capsule on his tattoo, and another one made like an entire sticky note, colored sticky note of the 8-bit Mega Man on his wall. It was like maybe 5 or 6 feet tall on his wall. So,
That seems a little excessive, but to each their own. But pretty much, I think Mega Man 11 came out 2010. I'd like to say if I did I say Mega Man 10 or
you
Man
said
11?
11. I'm like, that came out this year, homie.
No. Mega Man 10 that came out 2010, I believe. And the only thing we've really seen from Capcom and Mega Man since then, aside from
Fighting
Marvel
games.
vs. Capcom Infinite, is the Street Fighter vs. Tekken joke character Mega Man.
Uh,
So
that was the
people were
troll.
pretty upset about that.
Yeah, so it was a troll, like it was the box art Mega Man from the original Mega Man, and they also he there was another thing that was super upsetting to me. Okay, yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. They gave characters Mega Man alternate costumes. So they gave
Right.
Zero his alternate costume was basically him dressed up as Mega Man. They gave Frank West an alternate costume where he's dressed up like Mega Man, and a lot of the characters in their arcade mode win screens or whatever. Like there was like a little 3-panel comic that everybody had when you beat the arcade mode. They included Mega Man in like I think like 6 of them. So it was like almost like an open troll that Capcom was like, or maybe it wasn't even a troll where it was like these people are fans of Mega Man, but Big Brother Capcom was just like, nah, we're not doing anything with this
Well,
character.
if you think about it, not including Mega Man would be the same as like Super Smash Brothers not having Mario to a large extent.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I think at this point, and maybe this is me just because of me, I would say he's not there. Is Mega Man like Capcom's flagship character, or is it still, or is it Ryu? It's like
I
one of
always thought
those
Mega
two,
Man
right?
was the flagship.
Is it because of the types of games that were out at that time? It was like always like a platformer, like
Well, I mean, if you go back to mascot characters, Mega Man fits that role much more than Ryu does.
I guess, yeah, I guess that's fair.
And
That's
I
fair.
mean, he went out of vogue, but at the same time, there was really no reason to exclude him from a game that's called Marvel vs.
I
Capcom.
agree. I agree. Yeah, yeah.
When I, like, honestly speaking, I just don't think any other versus Capcom game excluded Mega Man, and it just seemed very peculiar to.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, so it wasn't until I think that was a fan game too, the Street Fighter Cross Mega Man, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm
Because
trying
that
to
was
think if
like
that was
it
a
came out
fan.
I believe it came out the 30-year anniversary of Mega Man, and I think it was like a fan made game that Capcom was like, oh, we'll throw you guys a bone and uh like push this or
Well, I mean,
promote this
that's
or
like the
whatever.
most unofficial release possible. So
Yeah, definitely,
yeah, I wouldn't even like put that as a quote unquote Capcom game, but
sure.
he was there.
But I mean, there definitely was like fans of Mega Man like that were yearning for something because I mean, like that they pretty much funded what was that? What's that game that everybody
Mighty
hates
Number
on?
Nine,
Yes, but we don't need to talk about that,
which,
right?
huh?
We don't need to talk about that, right?
No, I'm going to be the dude that says that game isn't quite as bad as most people say. Most people will say, "Oh, that was the worst game of the year. That game's trash. That blah blah blah." It's not a good game. Or it's not a great game at least. It has a lot of technical issues, but fundamentally most of the Mega Man stuff is there. It's actually probably better than maybe like Mega Man 5 and maybe like 6 or 7. I can't remember them.
Hmm.
There's so many they all start to blur together after
Oh
some
yeah,
point.
oh yeah. Well, let's start talking about number 11.
Yes.
So I guess I can introduce the system then, and then we can just kind of talk about it.
Cool.
So the big new thing in Mega Man 11 is one actually is the art style. This is a huge departure as far as I know. Like looking at screenshots of the previous games, where this one is like it's not
Yeah,
the
so even though Mega Man 9 and 10 came out, I'd say in the 2008 to 2010 range, they used the Mega Man 2 art style pretty much, which
it's a fan favorite.
yeah, it's 8-bit, just classic. If you've seen old Mega Man, that's what it looks like. But this game, it uses a different style, and I'll let you go into it.
It's just really like a it's really striking like a 3D like it's still like a 2D platformer, but it's
It's a 2.5D.
yeah, I'm trying to think of a game that I played that
Smash?
I guess yeah, yeah, I guess that is a good approximation. Or I was gonna say even like Bionic Commando Rearmed is kind of that same art style where it's like a 2D platformer but with 3D characters and I don't know, it makes it look a lot more striking. I really like the way the character models look. Um, and I think like I don't know too much. Like I said, I don't know too much about the Mega Man characters, but I think it even works for the classic bosses that are enemies that you fight. The classic. I don't know. Does Mega Man characters even have like the fodder enemies even have like names?
I'm sure yeah, they definitely do. I don't know any of them, though.
Yeah, like the shooting turret thing and the little spike thing that they stand on. Like those, like just being able to decipher stuff. Everything has like a unique look to it. Not like that's not to say that they did it before, but I don't know. It just everything looks like better to me. It's like the
I
worst.
think it does look good. And I'd say the game looks very cohesive. That's another really big thing that's important with platformers.
And I even like how they do the stages. So like um they're like theme, you know, like Mega Man has always had like themed bosses. So you know, you have like Flame Man, Torch Man, Guts Man, like all this, and they kind of have like a theme like to their stages. But like little touches like Blockman, like his is like a Egyptian theme, and so there's like hieroglyphics in the background, and then like um Torchman, like his is like a lot of campfires and like so there's tents and like almost like you're out camping in the woods. And I don't know, like the Acid Man, like the water has like a pH balance, so it goes from being like just like water that you can stand in to like getting acidic and it damages you if you're in there. I thought those are like really cool touches to the stages that I don't remember. Like and like I said, I don't have the background of Mega Man that you do or a lot of people have, but like I don't remember those kind of touches being in the first couple of games.
Yeah, I don't think they had like incredible detail back then, but there was a couple flourishes here and there, but you're still working with a very basic art style and very basic tile set because NES could only handle,
Yeah, yeah, it's not
you
like a
know,
knock on like they should have done this before. It's like they were working within limitations at the
yeah.
time. So
But they're using the hardware to their advantage.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about the new system that they introduced is called the double gear system, and it's they have like a pretty basic story in this game where it's the usual Dr. Wily paired up against Dr. Light, and basically Dr. Wily invented this double gear system back in the when they were in university together, and nobody saw the genius. Okay, so let's talk about the double gear system, which is the new system that they introduced in Mega Man 11. It gives Mega Man two different abilities, or really three different abilities. So on one hand, you have the speed gear that you activate with the right bumper, and it slows everybody down, so it makes it easier for you to dodge attacks, to platform, because Mega Man's still moving at normal speed, and he also can shoot quicker. And it's cancelable, so there's a meter that it's depleting as you're in this ability or in this mode, and you can cancel at any time and still use the remaining meter or let it charge back up. And then with the left bumper, you have the power gear, which is also cancelable, and this one makes you do more damage. So when you tap the shoot button, it shoots two shots. When you do a charge buster, it shoots two busters. So it's just a stronger version.
It
It's
shoots
really
two busters?
yeah, it shoots two
Oh man,
busters.
this is San Andreas.
No, Buster is not Bust Us. ER.
Ah, okay.
um, but it's very apparent. Like it makes a huge difference with using the enemy weapons. You know, that you get from defeating bosses. That's when it really like supercharges a lot of those abilities or a lot of those powers. And then if you push both bumpers down, you get to use the double gear, which has no cooldown. Excuse me, it's not cancelable, but it gives you a speed and a power boost. Um, I don't know if you can only use it when you're low energy or if it's just suggested that you only use it when you're low energy. But it's like a last ditch effort to like save your life when you're guns blazing mode basically. I'd actually never used the double gear ever, so
Nope.
it was mostly I would say for me it was maybe about 80% of the time I used speed gear and about 20% of the time I used power. And when I realized that, I tried to use power a little bit more. But like I said, they're just speed is so much more valuable.
I feel like speed ends up making power obsolete to some extent just for the amount of shots you get in. Like I haven't
Yeah,
done the hard math on that, but a lot of times it felt like, oh, well, I can make sure all of these shots land, and even though they're weaker, I'm getting a lot more of them in the same amount of time.
for me, I feel like I only used power when I was aiming at a very specific spot on a boss. Because like just like leading up to the level, I definitely was only using speed, and probably in the boss, I was also using speed to like dodge attacks and everything. So power
Hmm.
was strictly for offense, where speed was for like offense, dodging, everything. And it was almost like you had said earlier, it was almost like basically a single gear game or system instead of a double gear.
Man,
Um,
that's really awkward because that's not going to be in the. It's good though.
oh,
So
yeah,
we had
you're
a little bit of a hiccup,
right.
and we lost a little bit of audio, and that was probably in the lost part of the audio, but it's all good.
Oh, damn. Rip.
Man,
um,
now I know what Jeff's always talking about. It's like, oh man, this is awkward having to record the bombcast a second time.
all right, you're right, you're right. Like,
Uh,
hopefully this is not going to be as long, so we can try to keep this short.
yes.
And then I guess that's like the main new thing that they add. You will have to tell me. None of the Mega Man games, or at least one, didn't have slide in it, but slide was something that they got
Slide
introduced
was
later
introduced in
on.
3.
And then being able to call Rush, is that new or
No, that's been. I'm trying to think about when Rush was. He was either 2 or 3.
because they gave you the ability to either call him as the spring or call him as like the hoverboard.
Yeah, you have R Coil, which is the spring, and then you have R Jet, which is like the little hoverboard thing.
And then I think there's a two they added a shop, which that's never been in a Mega Man, right?
Yes, the shop is completely new.
And as much as I like the shop, I felt like that basically trivialized this game. If Speed Gear was like, here we're gonna help you make this game a lot easier, the shop was basically like, come one, come all, everybody can beat Mega Man now.
Pretty much, like, they give you a lot of things that probably would have been cheats in the other game, I feel like. Like the auto charge, the Buster, and I
I feel
think
like
the
that's
one that's the
always been a Mega Man, right?
hmm?
Isn't that always been a Mega Man? Like
No,
auto charge?
so the charge shot came in 2, I'd like to say. But I'm just talking about the ability that you can buy, or the part that you can buy specifically, where
Oh,
it passively charges your thing just as you move.
got you.
So that was really good. The other skill that I thought was kind of broken was the whole, like, you can move in regular time when you're in speed gear.
Oh yeah, actually yeah. Now that I think about it, so initially when you get speed gear, you're not moving as slow as the enemies. You're moving slightly faster, but you're not moving at regular speed. But with that upgrade, then you can move your regular speed.
Yep, it's
And then,
really good.
yes, and then they have like other things that are like really good. Like I think they have something that causes your buster to have like a taller rate,
Like larger shot.
a larger shot, so you can hit things that are like a little bit lower than the normal charge buster shot. They have like ice spikes or something, so that way on the ice stage you're not slipping around. The main thing, so you're buying these when you defeat enemies. They usually drops. Sometimes they drop something, sometimes they don't. But the main things that they drop is either life or excuse me, energy or bolts. So bolts are the currency in this game, and there's a part that you can buy that ups the chance that enemies drop bolts, so it allows you to basically have more currency. And like the funny thing was, is I'm so unfamiliar with Mega Man that I didn't know what the bolts were. So I beat like the first two levels, and I'm like, man, like this game is fun. What are these? I ended up asking Dante, I was like, what are these bolts for? And he's like, oh, you can just use them at the shop. And I was like, there's a shop in this game. And like once I got in the shop, it was a wrap because like at that point, like I was buying parts. Like you can buy extra lives. So like at a certain point, uh, I want to say from the third level on, like I never ran out of lives or had to do a continue. You could buy the full E tanks. You could buy the tanks that recharge your weapons abilities, your special weapon abilities. So I think by the end of the game, I had basically unlimited everything. They had like ability that if you landed on or it's a consumable, I guess you can say. But if you were to die by falling in a pit, one of the creatures would save you or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was like spiked shoes or something where they could take the impact of falling on spikes
Yeah, yeah, they
and
had
essentially
that, so
save you.
you wouldn't take any damage. But they also had one that if you fell into a pit, like the flying Doctor Light robot would
Oh, you're
swoop
talking about
in.
Birdie.
Yes, and he would like pull you out of the pit, and then you could control him and get yourself back onto a platform. And they even had, I don't remember, but I never used it, but the creature that gives you a random item.
Oh, yeah, I can't think of his name, but he shows up in maybe one or two of the levels. Like he's in
Yeah,
Blockman's level.
yeah, but you could
So, but
make
yeah,
him.
he's also consumable that you can potentially
Yeah, yeah.
purchase.
So
So,
like I think the shop really like because you could buy like 9 extra lives,
yup.
and you could have like 6 extra energy tanks or something like that. So it was like at a certain point, it was like I could get to the boss and basically just I had enough bolts that I never died, and I could just use as many E tanks as I wanted to stay alive and just defeat the boss on my first try. And it got to the point where I was just like, when I was to lose lives, it would be losing lives getting to the boss. But once I got to the boss, I basically just uh,
Spammed.
steamrolled. Yeah, I steamrolled my way to winning, beating the boss. So it made the game a lot easier, and like I don't want to say like it was still fun, if that makes any sense. Like despite it being simpler than the two Mega Man games that I played in the past, or three, I still had a whole lot of fun, and I like this game better than I like those ones. And part of it maybe had to do with the art style, maybe part of it had to do with just the platforming and the levels, which we can talk about some of that too. But like,
Mhm.
I really really surprisingly enjoyed myself playing this game. And if it wasn't for this bonus cast, I would not have played this game. And now like this playing this game is like, huh, maybe I should check out the other Mega Mans that I haven't played. Like I'm at that level, so I'm probably going to pick up a Legacy collection or two just to have. I may not beat them right away or whatever, but just to play them and just see like, do I like Mega Man or do I just like Mega Man 11? Do I have the sickness?
Yeah. So, going back to the shop for a moment, I kind of took a different approach than you did.
Hmm.
So, my first objective was to get all of the parts.
Hmm.
So, anytime I went to the shop, I made sure like I got all of the non-consumable items. So, I went through, pretty much got all of those really early on. You get a lot of bolts. You get a lot of
Yes,
bolts in this game.
yes.
So, kind of maxed those out pretty much by like
Probably like,
Robot Master 4 or 5, I feel like.
yep, yep.
And I bought all that other stuff, but me having this intense sense of Mega Man pride, I pretty much didn't use it if possible. I think I might have used like one energy tank before Wily's Castle, one or two, but I didn't buy the lives and I also didn't use the energy tank. So I kind of did still have that classic Mega Man experience where it's like, okay, I have 3 shots at this level. If I don't finish it, I'm going to have to start from the beginning. So the game allows you to curb your difficulty if you want to. And on one hand, I understand like why they would do that because there's a lot of people that play platformers nowadays that just simply wouldn't have the patience to get through Mega Man's 1 through 10.
I mean, they don't make
So,
games like that now. Like the platformers aren't
yeah, the
like that
checkpoint
now.
system has evolved over the years or has changed over the years to encourage people to finish the game. So it never forces you to oh, well, I have to learn from my previous mistakes and getting through something once isn't good enough. That's not how games are made nowadays. So Mega Man 11 kind of takes that new model and it's like, okay, well, if you really want to make this easy for yourself, we'll give you the tools to do that.
Yeah. Like, and to
And
to be fair, like I played that same way you did up until I got to the boss. So like I
mhm.
never used any of my consumables on the level. I like kept
Well, you
that
have the lives though.
sure, but I kept that experience, I guess you could say, as pure as I could.
Mhm.
Um, but the boss, I was just like, I'm gonna beat this boss on my first try. And like, I didn't start
Okay.
doing that until I did the same upgrade way you did. So like I said, I played through the first bosses wholly without knowing there was a shop, so I died a lot, and I accrued a ton of bolts. So I pretty much had bought every single upgrade part that I could afford, that
Hmm.
was unlocked after I beat the second. Would you call him Robot Master?
Robot Masters.
Yeah, so after I beat the second Robot Master, that's when I found out about the store, and I had accrued enough bolts from continues and all that that I basically had like a spare 2,000 after I bought all the parts. And I didn't buy any consumables at that point. And then when I realized, like, oh, these consumables, like, you don't have to, or you could get those as well. Then like after Robot Master 5, that's when I started buying that stuff.
Okay, that's fair.
I don't know. I agree with you. I kind of was just like, man, if people want that old experience, just play the old games. Like, part of me, and maybe this is me being like, maybe a reason why I'm not a Mega Man fan or whatever, but it's like, they made 11 games. Like, I'm glad they switched up. Like, I'm not saying finally, but I am kind of saying finally. Like,
Hmm.
if you wanted that pure, not saying you, but if people are complaining that this game is too easy, they can definitely play the way you played. But like, if you want that pure, like, I have 3 lives and I got to do the best I can or whatever, then just you have ten games to choose from. Like, I'm okay that they deviated with this game, and I'm honestly, if they continue to do like if they, I'm okay with the next 10 Mega Man, one or excuse me, 11 setting the stage for how they do the next 10 Mega Man, 11 through 20. Like I'm cool with them saying like, okay, this is going to be a fresh restart for Mega Man. So if you want to play the classic like 8-bit Mega Man, you have 1 through 10, and if you want to play the 3D sprite or 2.5D Mega Man, then you can play 11 through 20. And we'll have the shops, and we'll have some type of new system in each game, or maybe expound upon the gear system, or make it a little bit less powerful. Then I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where they go from here because I'm pretty sure this game's a success, and I'm pretty sure they'll end up making more.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's quote unquote mad with this game. I just think that, some people that went for the, I don't know, trademark patented challenge of Mega Man might end up disappointed unless they, like, kind of take the reins into their own hands.
Definitely, I definitely feel like this game was like kind of sort of for Mega Man fans, but it also was kind of sort of for people that like me that were like familiar with Mega Man, but like we've grown accustomed to more things in games. So like having a shop, or like just like it adds some type of replayability a little bit, not in the same way where like you're challenge like it's the challenge, but just the like you can make the game play to your liking. So you can make it hard if you want to play it the way you want to play it, or if you just want to like say, hey, I played this game, I had fun, and I beat it like I did, then I was able to do that, and I also had fun. So
Would you have any interest going back through the game and potentially, I don't know, making it harder for yourself?
oh yeah, definitely. Like I've never. So we played this game with the Steam share, right? So you own the
Correct.
game and you shared it with me so I could play it. So I could play when you were not using your Steam. And I don't think there were certain things that this game like made me feel that I hadn't like realized. I don't know how to describe that feeling, but like I think it was like the Blockman level, and like I just had that when you play a platformer, or like when I played platformers growing up, where it was like I'm looking like off to the side of where my character is. Your character is always in the middle of the screen, or your character like I always knew where my character was despite never looking directly at my character. and I just got in the zone. So I was like looking to see what I had to dodge, and then jumping or sliding underneath it, and like keeping my Buster Shot charged and releasing it, and like I got in the zone, and like I that is not something that I don't get that in any other type of game than platformers. And I haven't played a platformer in a while, but it felt so good to be in that zone. And it's something that like I didn't know I missed feeling, if that makes any sense.
Completely. There's a very specific moment later in the game that we'll eventually get to where essentially it was that boss I was telling you about from the classic Mega Man that I'm like, this fight makes you fight the boss, and you're not. Well, you're fighting yourself, but you're also fighting the boss at the same time, and it's knowing his pattern and also knowing when to get your shots in when possible.
Yeah.
And they literally recreate that fight for this Mega Man, and I got so excited when it happened because I'm like, I have a little bit of this muscle memory from before. I'm going to use that to my advantage. Then I'm just going to kind of soak this in. Like, it's encouraged that you use the speed gear on that fight, but I'm like, nah, I got this, bro. I got this.
I did the same exact thing. I did the same exact thing, dude. I was like, I got the speed gear, but no, I just want to do my reflexes and test my reflexes and
Just soak it in.
yeah, so like definitely like I had said all that because like there were times when you were on Steam and I was like, this dude needs to go to sleep so I can play some freaking Mega Man. Like,
This dude needs to go to bed.
yeah, it was like I mean, like I don't work on Fridays, so I think it was like a Thursday night, and I think I stayed up. Like I came up to like my game room or whatever at 11, and I saw you were playing Evil Within 2. Um, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like it's almost. I'm sure Dante has to work tomorrow, so maybe he'll be on for like maybe another hour, and then that'll be it. And then it gets to like one, I think like 1 or 1:30, and you're still on. And I'm like, dang it, dude! I just want to play some freaking Mega Man. Get off, like, and like,
It's like, do I buy the classic collection?
I was literally thinking like, should I just buy this game? Like, I was thinking like, should I just buy this game so I can like, because I think at that point I had like three more of the Robot Masters, and
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I like this game. I don't mind paying $30. Like I know I've gone through like over half of this game at this point, but I'll spend $30 to. And I ended up not doing it, but it was just like I was contemplating, like, man, I really want to play Mega Man, and I can't play Mega Man right now. Should I buy Mega Man?
That's so funny.
So
Oh
yeah,
man.
I definitely will intend to go back and play this game. I definitely will pick this game up when it goes on sale. In the meantime, I'll just play it when you're not on Steam.
That's cool. That's perfectly fine. So we should probably get into some of these stages at least, like loosely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I wrote down my order of like like I wrote down from favorite to least favorite stages. Um, and I wrote a little like note about each stage, like something cool or
If
something.
Tundra Man isn't the dead last, I'm gonna be a little upset.
You're gonna be upset then.
All right,
Thunderman, like, okay,
forget that stage, man. That stage cost me an hour by itself.
the ending with the wind and the blocks and
Yes.
so like okay, so you have to take into consideration too, like I had at that point, like Tundra Man, I believe was the last or second to last stage, and at that point I had consumables, so my experience would be different than yours is.
And this was also my like I think on the very last run I ended up using a couple, but before then I refused to buy any of the birdie things.
Yeah.
So anytime I fell into a pit, I was donezo.
If it makes you feel any better, I had 9 lives, but I guaranteed like I used all of my birdies on the first life. So like the last 8 were like, granted, I had 8 lives, but they were all legit runs with no birdies. Because that win part was so stupid. Um,
Oh,
yeah, they're just like a lot of tricky jumping where it was like, okay, you have to jump and to the next platform, but there's either wind pushing you or making
One, there's wind pushing you. Two, there's a roof right above your head, so you have to do this like near pixel perfect jump so you don't hit the top of the roof that you're over and just instantly jump into a pit.
yeah, it was silly. Um,
I also have this really bad thing with jumping in games where a lot of times if I don't feel like I did the right jump, I'll try to quickly hold left and get back on the platform. But since the wind was pushing me, that didn't work. Like I
yeah.
tried to cancel my jump, but then it's
hmm
like, nah, bro, you've already committed.
I learned that the hard way with the slide, where I was trying to like slide and then jump. But if you like, I was thinking like this is the Donkey Kong fan in me, but being able to jump off of nothing, like cartwheeling or rolling off a ledge and then being able to jump. You can't do that in Mega Man. So
Nope.
I was dying a lot because I was like sliding to avoid something and letting myself slide off the edge because I was like I can jump and then nope, I just dropped like dead weight. the
Man, so I digress. What's your order?
Okay, so these three are like I think block is my favorite level, but like these three are like all like top three and like it doesn't really matter the order. It's block. And the reason why I like block, it was like there was block cut puzzles, there was conveyor belts, falling blocks. There was just a lot of like just old school feeling platforming, and it ended up being the first level I played as well. So I just really, really enjoyed the aesthetic and just like playing on that level. It was very straightforward. Like it wasn't like a whole lot of like groundbreaking um platforming, but it was just like it was like the perfect level to get me into this game. So I really liked it. But then the other two up there was Fuse and Blast. I really like Blast Man's stage.
Hmm. You're gonna have to remind me what happens on Blast Man.
So Blast Man was the one that had those switch detonators, that had all those boxes that would explode. And then they had like the enemies that dive kick, the little tiny enemies that dive kick that took one hit, but they blew up. And then
Yep.
it had the puzzles where you had to start the explosion to unlock the path, and you had to dodge the explosion to keep proceeding.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the little laser. They had the enemies that had like they threw like the explosive balls of fire at you, and then when you killed them, then a TNT exploded, and the TNT barrel tracked you as well.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I remember this level now.
I really like that level.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, the end actually, and no surprise, or actually kind of a surprise. Blast, Fuse, and Block were the first three levels that I played, and I didn't know, like I didn't look it up. Like one thing I
Boss
know about,
order.
yeah, one thing I know about Mega Man, there's a boss order. I didn't look any of that stuff up, so I just chose them based off how I felt. The only thing I had heard was I heard that Bounce Man's level was really fun, so I was like, I'll save that one towards the end because apparently that one is fun. Um,
See, I heard from everybody that that level takes forever, which wasn't really my like experience with it, to be honest.
how'd you feel about those three that I said, and like what were your top three?
So you said Block, Blast, and
Fuse.
Fuse, right?
Yeah.
So Blockman was the first level I played because that was the one that was in the demo.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a really good feel of it going in. Like, I think I died once, and it was on a really stupid, just platforming fault of my own.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that level overall. I like the drill puzzles they have you do, where you have to quickly navigate these areas, and
Mm-hmm.
you have
Mm-hmm.
this mini boss that I think shows up 3 times total
I, two or
throughout the level.
three. I think most mini bosses show up two times.
But pretty much that level was trivial for me at this point. I enjoyed it. Fuse Man, I honestly, I'm trying to think about the stuff that goes on in his level.
Fuse Man was the shock puzzles. It was
Yeah, I really liked his stage. It had those really interesting electricity puzzles.
yes.
And I think he was the second guy I did.
Okay, so we
And
basically played the same first two.
yeah, so he has a lot of, I guess, electricity puzzles where like, okay, this light bulb is going to shoot out this beam, so you kind of have to watch the patterns because there will be multiple beams going at you, and you have to use speed gear to quickly navigate through these areas. And I just
Mm-hmm.
thought those were really nice little mini puzzles for platformers. And the fight itself, I remember being a little tricky. I think he's the guy that kind of dashes around, right?
Yeah, so he creates like little lightning patterns in the sky, and you have to. He does like a. He's really fast, and he shoots
He has an
lightning at
instant
you,
transmission.
and then he has instant transmission where he like bolts to the ground and does like a slam. So you kind of have to. This is one of the fights that you have to use the speed gear to like dodge it because you can't run quick enough to get away from him.
Yeah, I was really happy I knew about the shot by this point because not having that whole move in normal speed when you're in slow motion or speed gear, that would have been a problem fighting
Mm-hmm.
this dude. And I think I fought him that way for the first 2 times, but then I went to the shop and got that upgrade and beat him.
Yeah, yeah.
So I thought he was really cool, and I also liked Blast Man.
Okay, so we have the same favorite three.
I wouldn't say those are my favorite three.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
If I had to rank them, I'd say my top ones. Block is really good. I like Fuse Man a lot. I also like Torch Man's level.
Okay.
Do you remember anything about that one?
Yeah, so Torchman, you get chased by the flame wall. There's those owls that are basically lanterns, and once you kill them, then there's no like light on that section of the stage.
Hmm.
I actually had you said Fuse, Blast, and or Fuse, Block, and Torch is your three. You said
Probably my top three.
so. Torch was in my next batch. It was like in the middle.
Okay. I just really like Torch because like when I got there, I was like, "What's going on?" Because you see these teepees and
Yep, the
there's some signage
campfires.
and stuff, and I'm like, "What?" And you see like I can't even think of the hard hat enemies. They're on these signs, and it's like, "Oh well, they should be camping or whatever." And
Never
I
seen
just
it.
really like the aesthetic of that level.
Yeah, yeah.
And another thing, when I shot one of those owls that had the torch,
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, it's dark here." And I'm like, I bet they did this. So I pull out my fuse power, start shooting the little lightning bolts, and sure enough, the level lights up.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Huh? I didn't realize that. Yeah, I just avoided all the owls because I didn't want to turn off the lights.
And I also really like the Flame Man fight or the Torch Man fight because he shoots like he has this fist move that he does where you just have to dodge three of those. He has a kick. So I
A
guess
dive
he's
kick.
kind of like a martial arts boss.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was cool. Like, I don't really remember too much about most of the bosses
Hmm.
because I the bosses that had like each boss had like two different attack patterns. I didn't really care for the bosses that had like a different form. I like the
Hmm.
bosses that like I didn't like Blockman's fight. He really had three forms, but he went from being like normal to being like super big to being like
I
back
feel
to
like his first form was kind of trivial.
yeah, but I didn't like his second form. I don't know, like I liked like Acid Man. Like he was in the same form, but he just had two
Hmm.
different attack stages, I guess you could say.
And yeah, he had an EX attack, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I guess so. My middle batch was probably Torch, um, Impact, and those are probably like my two middle, like Impact and Torch.
Hmm.
And we've already talked about Torch. Impact was like this one had a lot of moving platforms on rails where you could drop into pits and die, and so you had to stay on the platform. And there was these like drills that went through the entire stage, so you could see where they're coming from, and you had to like dodge them while you're on these platforms, like on rails. So you had to like jump over drills, or they're coming diagonally or horizontally or vertically on the screen, and that was like a huge part of that level. That was like super construction themed level, so there was a whole bunch of construction signs and hard hat enemies and That level was all right. I'm not really typically a fan of like platforming games with levels that you have to stay on a platform.
Platform.
Yeah, like I was just yeah, I lost for words. Like, do I say the most obvious thing? But yeah, like that was always those are always like my least favorite levels, like in Mario 3 and in Donkey Kong. But like it's
Fortunately,
fine.
like that level is pretty tricky, but if you have the acid barrier or whatever, um,
I didn't at
you can
that
avoid a
time,
lot
yeah.
of
So
attacks. So
so one of the things that I this is me being a Mega Man noob or whatever, I never use the abilities outside of the boss fights. So I always just use regular
really,
Buster. Yeah. Yeah.
I mostly use Buster just to kind of up the difficulty on myself a little bit, but there's a couple of scenarios where I would I would change to a weapon for specific enemies. Like I don't remember his name. I think it's something Joe, but he used to do with the shield that will
Shoot the three
pull it
pistol
away and start
shots.
shooting you.
The green dude with the shield, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd just drop blocks on that dude all day.
Uh, yeah,
And there's a couple enemies where like the electric one, it will just literally ride the wall and
hmm
hit them. So I just shoot it up and pretty much take out stuff above me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'd use the Buster the entire time, and like really even on the bosses, unless I felt like I would kind of experiment a little bit, but like there was only maybe three bosses that I actually used ability on. Other than that,
Hmm.
like I just used the Buster the entire game
I feel like you could get away with that a lot more on this one.
because of the gear
Like in
system.
some of the previous Mega Mans, there was an immunity or at least like resistance to the Buster on some
It's not
bosses.
very effective.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you think about it, Mega Man's kind of like Pokemon, just
Yeah, yeah.
platform. Yeah.
To be to
But, I felt like this one they allow you to get away with just using the Buster a lot more.
well, a lot of it for me was just because of the gear system. Like I felt confident in what I was doing because it was like, oh well, if I use the power right here, that's two fully charged busters, so that's a
Hmm.
ton of damage. Or even the speed where it's like, oh, they are standing right in front of me. I can just shoot like 9 to 12 non-charged busters before they move. So it was just
Yep.
like you can do a lot more damage quicker. Um, what are your
Let's see.
least favorite, I guess? Since I did my two middle, I guess, but it'd probably just be easier to say
So,
your least favorite levels.
I guess my least favorites would be like the only level I don't even want to say I dislike it. I just got frustrated with it was Tundra Man.
Uh huh.
And I'm looking at this list. I think I might not have had the best time on the Acid Man stage. It just seems a little forgettable from what I remember.
So like, yeah, yeah. My bottom three were acid, bounce, and bounce was my least favorite level,
Really?
unequivocally. Yes, I could not stand that level, and so probably yeah, like you said, tundra, acid, and bounce. I didn't like acid because it was like a water level, and like
It
the
had all the spike
instant
areas, didn't
kill
it?
spikes, um, which was not fun. Um, I
Was it
did,
the one with there's this one jump where I was like, there's no way in the world I can get through. So essentially there's spikes on the top of the platform, spikes on the bottom of the platform, and then there's one like a mini platform just going in the circular motion in between it. Do you
yep,
remember this jump?
yep. Or you
I
was
lucked
the
out. Like I don't even know how you're supposed to do it, but I jumped. I luckily landed on the platform when it was at its bottom and just kind of ran off of it and was able to get to the other side.
yeah, because yeah, and I think that part I think was the same part for me where I know I lost like a ton of lives at one part because it was just like man, like it's such a slim margin of error right here,
Hmm.
and I don't know, I didn't really like that. I thought the water turning into acid was really cool. I like that touch of the stage.
Hmm.
But I didn't really like the overall stage.
So, out of curiosity, um, for the upgrades and stuff, do you think those were story based or how did, stuff get unlocked in the shop?
I don't know. Like I want to say like I feel
Because
like
there was still stuff at the end of the game that I didn't
yep,
have.
that weren't unlocked, right?
Yeah, I didn't get the crush shoes or the thing that allows you to prevent insta death from spikes until Wily's castle.
Okay, I got that early.
Huh.
I wonder if it's based off play style, like doing an achievement or something, or make like because I
I,
see.
I'm thinking that it might have to do with certain like thresholds, like oh, you killed this many enemies or you defeated this enemy X amount of times.
Cool. Well, I was just gonna say like certain things where like I'm trying to think of any of the achievements I got were like kill 100 enemies in speed mode. I got one that was like kill. I think it was like 4 enemies with 3 shots. There was
Yep.
achievements based off on the mini bosses. So that I think there was a monkey on the on Torchman's stage that I killed before he even caught on fire, and so I got an achievement for that. So I'm wondering if they were like you had to do a certain thing to unlock that. Like not everything. I feel like some were like once you beat two
Oh man.
levels or a level, then you get this the ability to buy
So
this upgrade.
I found a link and it instantly made me sad. I'm gonna see if you know why. Do you see the link?
Yeah. It's loading right now.
If you don't get it by now, you're not gonna get why
Most
I'm
of the
sad.
items in Mega Man 11 can be unlocked without defeating a single boss.
No, it's Prima Games.
Oh, R.I.P.
You heard, yeah. So Prima Games, like the guys that have been writing guides since pretty much I was a kid, announced that they're shutting down. And I just happened to find a link on their website that was super handy about how you unlock all the Mega Man 11 parts and items. So, yeah, it seems like you have to do certain
Oh my god.
tasks.
The screw catcher only unlocks on Saturdays. What?
What?
Good thing I played the game on a Saturday.
What?
That was the
Yeah,
one
I
that I
didn't get it.
guess gave you more bolts, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the
Shows.
reason why you didn't get the spike one because you didn't die 5 times by getting hit by a spike by hitting a spike,
Oh.
unlike
Huh.
your boy.
That's so funny. So, yeah, they kind of do intentionally, help you out. It's like, hey, you've died this many times this way. Let me help you out.
Yeah,
Same thing with the energy catcher. Get game over screen 10 times.
yeah, I don't think I got that one. Or I'm just gonna claim I did. I don't remember
But, yeah, his level is kind of trash,
the acid
from what
one.
I remember. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I like the gimmicks of it. I just didn't like the whole spike part of it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
even though I got through it, I think I got through it in my first try, but still, I was just upset with it.
Nah, I was stuck at that part for a while. So, and then as far as the bounce one, I think the main reason I didn't like it was there was like I didn't understand. This level had a bunch of bouncy balls, and you use that to
You have to
progress.
hold A.
That because it didn't seem like it was like
I spent like a good minute on the first ball just being like, okay, how do I do the high jump? I did
yes,
this once.
right. That the I didn't really like the trampoline things where you had to get all the way to the top and then fall
Mm-hmm.
down and hit the trampoline to go all the way back up to the top.
Huh.
Um, and then I definitely didn't like the little hand switch puzzles. I died so many times off that.
Really?
Dude,
Like
yeah.
the two things that you mentioned, I just kind of took them as matter of fact things that just happened in the level. Like I never found any difficult in the
Like every
trampoline thing.
single thing specific to that level I didn't like. And that's why it's my least favorite level. Um,
Man.
yeah, the little hand puzzle thing, there was I couldn't figure out like sometimes so there was a room that had two of those hand puzzle things, so you like
Mhm.
get hit by one to hit all there's a gap so you can fall into this pit. So like if you get hit by one, it hits you all the way to the right. Then you got to shoot the one up top, and then you get shot to the left, and you get to the next room. And every time for like 15
Is
times,
this the one right after the checkpoint?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. And it like sometimes it hit me to the top, and sometimes it just hit me straight across. And I couldn't
Huh.
figure out like how to control where I ended up and specifically in that room. So this is like another instance of like that acid level where it was like this one thing kind of ruined my this one section kind of ruined my whole taste of this entire level.
So I'm not gonna say that you did it the quote unquote wrong way, but you could have made it a lot easier for yourself if you just use like Rush probably. Because you said it was the last level you did.
Yeah, but
So
I
there's a lot of things you could trivialize just by getting on R jet.
yeah, and so I always was low on rush. Like on certain levels, I was low on rush thing, and I'm not
Hmm.
familiar enough with Mega Man, so like I had all the capsules, but I didn't know what recharged that. So
Oh, anything. If you're base Mega Man and you just find one of those energy capsules.
I'm saying like what items, like what items that you could buy. So like I would be
Oh,
full life with all these consumables, but I didn't know how to recharge that thing.
that's your weapon.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So because I never used any weapons, so it seemed like why would I? I should have thought to, but because I never used any of my weapon, I was like, I'm not going to use this. It's just a waste.
I will say with the bounce level, this was the one time where I was absolutely positive as far as like, oh, this has to be his weakness. When I got the pile driver, and I was like, oh, this is a drill. Well,
Yeah.
drills pop
Well,
balloons.
for me, it was using fuse on Tundraman.
Mm.
That was the one.
See, I was kind of mixed on that one because I was like, maybe he's weak to torch.
Nah, I was like, yeah, he's definitely weak to electricity. So that one and the one you just said, bounce and impact, I was like, yeah, those are like I'm guaranteed. I bet those are, and I assume blast was weak to fuse, but I mean to torch. But I had gotten blast
Hmm.
first, so I didn't get to try that theory out. Well, do you got
Do we have anything before Wally's
not
castle?
the nothing else that I can think of? Go ahead, man. Let's get to the what is it? The Yellow Man? What I don't even know what it's called.
Yellow Devil?
Yellow Devil.
Yeah, so essentially you beat the first 8 bosses, and as per usual for Mega Man game, it's like, yo, meet me in my crib. That's Dr. Wily impersonation right there. So you go ahead, head over his way, and his first level is a bunch of like, I don't know how to say it. It's like you're on the outside of the castle. There's all of these cogs, and you just kind of have to platform from one to another. And at one point during the level, there's this really good throwback where you have these disappearing blocks. Do you happen to remember those from Mega Man 1 or 2?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. I
So you
remember
got
hating
those,
that part in that game.
and they're back. And this one's not as bad because one, it's not over a invisible pit or bottomless pit,
Hmm.
so they're a little bit friendly with it. And it did take me some time. I probably spent a good 3 or 4 minutes getting through that first one, but you get past that and you make it to Yellow Devil Mark III actually. Hey guys, what's up? So a couple things happened. Marcus and I had some connectivity issues, so we weren't able to finish our original recording of Mega Man 3. So he also flew to China, so making up like a makeup session or whatever was next to impossible. So I'm just going to do this alone. So pretty much where we left off was Yellow Devil. Yellow Devil is a boss from Mega Man 1. He appears in Wily's castle in this one, and he's a little bit different. He has a couple new moves. He can shoot his blocks like he used to before. He does the whole eye laser thing after he's transferred from one side to the other. But he also has the ability to make himself into clones, and pretty much he tries to fill up the screen, and you just have to use speed gear and kind of navigate around him. He also gets a lot faster as the fight goes along, and I can't remember if he did that in the original game, but it's a really interesting take on that fight. It's a lot of fun fighting him. So, yeah, I was very happy to see him back in the game. So, after getting through Gear Fortress 1, you obviously go to Gear Fortress 2. There's not too much to be said about the actual level part of it, but there's a thing that chases you and tries to crush you. pretty much you get through that, you end up getting to a boss called Mavern, which is this giant spear, and he can pretty much just shoot lasers. That's really his one thing. It's a fun fight, but it's not, he never really had me sweating or anything like that. So you get past him, you go to the Gear Fortress 3, which is the boss rush, and this is pretty much typical for any Mega Man game. You just go through, fight like all the bosses that you had before you have the final showdown with Wily. And by this point, you're so upgraded. You have like 9 energy tanks, 9 extra lives, all that jazz, that this really shouldn't be that much of an issue. I think I ended up dying to, maybe it was Tundra Man, but that was about it. But, I'm glad they had it. It's a throwback to the old games. And finally, you get to Gear Fortress 4, which there's a little bit of a lead up going to Wily, but you're really just there for the Wily fight. And his first form, it's very similar to, I can't remember which of the Mega Man games it was, but essentially he's in this little vehicle thing, and you just, you have to dodge his attacks, you have to jump on these missiles headed towards you, and shoot him in the, I can't remember if there's an eye or you just shoot him directly. Either way, he goes down pretty easily. There's a couple times where he'll be out of reach and you have to shoot these gears that he's standing on. But it's nothing too groundbreaking. And that leads us to Dr. Wily Form 2, where he just kind of swings around in this like spear. I think he shoots some cogs at you or something. And I was honestly a little underwhelmed by this fight. He just didn't have that much to hit you with. And also the fact that you have all of these healing items at this point. He's never really a threat. I don't think I died on Wily Form 2. And let me see. That really brings us to the end of the game where Mega Man's like, oh, well, you should change your ways. And Wily pretty much gets on his knees and begs. He's like, hey, just let me live and stuff, bro. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like my phone's going to let me pull up Marcus's final impressions. But from what I remember him saying, he said he enjoyed it. He hopes the series continues to go in this direction. And he's also interested in going back to the Legacy collections that have been released recently. So yeah, that was a very short outro for the game. We were almost done with it. But that's Mega Man 11, folks. Peace.